Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and God save the Queen and all that. This is this week's bonus podcast where we're going to be talking about Corrie at the Jubilee time. It's Jubilee week here in the UK. Huzzah! 70 years of Her Magi, Gemma.
Good job, Queen.
Longer than I've done anything for, I tell you that.
Longer than lots of people have done a job for, really.
It is a little bit. I think I was kind of bit. I think when every time we have a Jubilee come round, we think, well, that'll be the last one of those then. But this...
Aren't you rude?
Well, no, I mean, good honour, all I can say. I mean, at the beginning of this year, looking a little bit war.
Why are you being rude?
I'm not. I'm congratulating her. She's keeping us on tenterhooks like Coronation Street is this week. It's like, oh, is she going to make it? Is she going to make it? No, Queen, don't get in the car. But this week, we are going to talk about Jubilee stuff and royal family shenanigans, but not, hopefully, any crossover with what we did last year, because... was it last summer that the Queen visited the Coronation Street set, I think? Mm-hmm. And we did a special bonus feature on times when... What was it? It was like...
Royal Family Connections.
You listened to that earlier today, didn't you? What were we talking about on that?
Times when the Queen or royals had visited the street.
Okay.
And what happened. And royal family stuff that they mentioned in the show.
We're not going to talk about that today. Oh, no. We're going to talk about Jubilee. And Gemma had a little idea as well that we could talk about who is the royal family of Coronation Street. So we will get onto that in just a little bit. But first off, Gemma, Jubilee Terrace. Does that mean anything to you?
No.
Well, it should, by gum. You're a Coronation Street podcaster. This is the road. I never really knew. I'd heard of Jubilee Terrace, but I couldn't remember where it was supposed to be. So I had a little look on Corriepedia earlier today. And apparently that's the road that's like, if you carry on up Coronation Street and like blast through the viaduct and through the bistro and everything.
Lots of people have tried to blast through the viaduct.
They've tried a few times. I mean, Don Brennan got quite close at one point, didn't he? So did
Mad Maya.
So did Mad Maya. Yeah, but that wall is
so did the
stubborn
tram.
and sturdy. Well, yeah, the tram. We did actually get to see a little bit of Jubilee Terrace when they had the tram crash 12 years ago, because that was when they employed some quite spiffy CGI to show like wider Weatherfield. So what's on the other side of the tram tracks is Jubilee Terrace.
You didn't used to need CGI to see Jubilee Terrace, Michael.
No, you didn't, because back in the early days of Coronation Street, and I'm talking like right back at the beginning, you could see it in all its glory, painted 2D onto a brick wall.
So if you're walking from the Rovers to Devs, right in front of you, the bistro used to be just an archway where you could. There wasn't a road that went through there. There was railings and like a little low brick wall. And the other side of that, you could see all the way through to Jubilee Terrace.
Yeah. But like I said, it was just a 2D painted backdrop thing like Coronation Street was wont to do back in the olden days before we had HD, and we were pointing out all the little nickety details like that.
So what was on Jubilee Terrace, Michael?
Not much. Minnie Caldwell lived there for a little bit, apparently. She lived there with her mum for a couple of years before moving to number 5 Coronation Street. But it is also, I found this quite interesting today, this is where the Flying Horse was supposed to be. Not the animal, stupid, but the actual pub that they occasionally and seemingly rarer mention.
The whole point of Jubilee Terrace is that it's like a mirror image of Coronation Street, and so it had the Flying Horse, just like Coronation Street had the Rovers.
Yes, I don't know whether they had a backwards mission, like a devil worship society place, or
maybe the Temple of Satan.
Maybe just to even it out a little bit. I wonder if like everybody in Coronation Street had their mirror image back then.
Well, I mean, Minnie was from Jubilee Terrace, so who was deposed in 1962 when she moved in to number 5?
Oh, I don't know. But yeah, that's Jubilee Terrace, and but apart from that, there have been other Jubilee thingies going on in Coronation Street over the years.
Related to the event, which is
the actual Jubilee.
The Jubilee. So
I don't know whether Jubilee Terrace. I don't know what the history of this is, because Coronation Street itself was supposedly built in 1902, which was for the coronation of, I can't ever remember which king it is, but it was the one that came after Queen Victoria.
Bobbert the First.
I thought it was the Bobbincy area.
Yeah, I love it.
Some might say we're in the Bobbins area of Coronation.
Bit of a renaissance of the Bobbins era right now.
I know. Just tonight we watched the very first episode of the Britain's Got Talent Week stuff. Reserving judgment so far. Bit of a slow start, maybe.
Don't make this.
No, I'm not. I'm going to make it.
This is supposed to be timeless, so we can bust this out in the next 10 years when Her Maj has her 80th. Jubilee.
I don't know which Jubilee Terrace was supposed to be set up for, or whether indeed it was just randomly because it sounds nice.
It feels like if you're a monarch, you need to make it to 25 years before you get any kind of celebration, which is bad for Charles. And who knows if he'll be King Charles or somebody else, because he can pick a different name, can't he?
He can, yeah.
And actually, Queen Elizabeth is quite rare in that she's a monarch that selected her own name.
I don't think people would accept Charles being anything else by this point, to be honest.
If he wanted to be called something else, he's lost.
He should have
been king ages
changed
ago,
his name a little while before this. Yeah.
So the first Jubilee that was mentioned on Coronation Street was the Silver Jubilee, which is 25 years, which was 1977, and the events took place around May.
We watched this episode a couple of years ago, didn't we? I don't remember a whole lot about it. I mean, we've watched so much flipping retro Coronation Street in the past couple of years that they all kind of merge into one a little bit. But I had a look at my notes earlier on today, and the thing that stood out to me, and I thought, oh yes, I remember that happening, was the kangaroo court that was set up for Stan Ogden, because he was supposed to be in charge of the float, wasn't he, for the Jubilee parade. They had a load of the Coronation Street residents dressed up as various famous Brits, and Stan Ogden, did he leave the lights on overnight or something? So when it came to moving the float the next morning, it wouldn't start. I blame Kevin. I think he went back in time and stole Stan Ogden's spark plugs or whatever that was supposed to be tonight.
To the nefarious deeds he'll get up to.
Yeah, but then they set up a kangaroo court for Stan and the Rovers, where they all judged him guilty for being a pillock or something like that.
No, I'm made in meticulous notes here, and you're just
I'm just riffing
blasting through them.
Riffing it from memory.
So the parade float was supposed to be Britain Through the Ages, which was Emily's idea, and so Ernest wanted her to be Queen Elizabeth I. But
competition.
Annie did not want this to happen because she thought she was more important. So she's the one that secured the lorry from the brewery. So she is like, if you want the lorry, you got to let me be Queen Elizabeth first. And they also wanted Betty to be Britannia, but she refused. So they basically dressed up as various people from throughout the ages of Britain to represent our glorious history. So we had Ken Barlow, who was Sir Edmund Hillary, and Albert Hacklock was supposed to be Sherpa Tenzing, which actually his name was not Sherpa Tenzing, it was Tenzing Norgay, so that's wrong. Back in the old days, it's like calling somebody Servant Hilda. I
don't even know who it... Did he go with Edmund Hillary, did he?
Yes!
I don't know. I'm just in charge of history at my school, but I don't know that kind of stuff.
It's quite rude to refer to Sherpas as Sherpa something. I'm just telling
this was the 70s. You could get away with saying stuff.
Well, this is probably why people got a bit annoyed at us.
Ernest Bishop was Sir Walter Raleigh. And
nice.
We had Sir Francis Drake, played by Fred G. He said he was posing with one of Jack Walker's bowling balls, was it? I don't remember this. But there's an old there's a picture of them all together on the back of the float. I can't remember if they actually go in the end. Do they?
Can I just explain things to you?
Yeah, you go
you
for
let
it.
Me.
Yeah, because Gemma did all the research and the notes for today's episode, didn't you? It was
I did.
Yeah, it was, I passed this over to you because it was your idea, so I will let
Ina
you
Sharples
talk.
was dressed as Queen Victoria, and we also had the famous figure of the caveman, everybody's favourite Brit, Eddie Yates played the caveman. Unfortunately, on the day when everyone was all G'd up, ready to go, it turned out the lorry didn't work because Stan left the lights on all night and it wouldn't start. So everybody was blaming everybody else. At one point, Annie got blamed for it because it was her idea to use the lorry. But eventually, they decided to, as you say, hold this court. Albert was the judge. He was furious. Eddie was the defence. And Fred G was prosecuting, and in the end, Stan was found guilty, and he had to buy everybody drinks. So because they couldn't go to this on the float, Bet still went to the event where all the other Jubilee floats were, and she entered the fancy dress competition. She got highly commended.
Oh, well done, Bet.
Because she was Britannia, as we all know.
I kind of miss the days where they had floats on Coronation Street. There's been a few over the years, hasn't there? I remember the Better Boys float, the Horn of Plenty, back in the early 90s, with Reg Holdsworth dressed as Bacchus, god of wine, and Curly was his winged messenger boy, and so on. I don't know whether they've had
now known as Every.
I don't remember whether they've actually had any Corrie floats since then. It kind of sounds a little bit too jovial and community spirited for Coronation Street to do anything like that now. This year they've got some flags up, and I know we're only one day into the week as of the time of recording, I don't think we're going to be seeing a street party this week, are we? We're not going to have a load of plates of sandwiches and scones down the middle of the street, unfortunately. But it's nice that they've got the flags out at least.
Well, part of the celebration for the Silver Jubilee was bunting and flags on Coronation Street, but they also did a few other things, not just the Weatherfield parade float. They had the Bonnie Jubilee baby contest, which Tracy Barlow won as a baby. And then there was a bit of drama surrounding this, and I've forgotten this, but this was Ray and Deirdre win a weekend in London, and Tracy gets some kind of like little crap piece of crown or something, which I wonder if she's still got.
Probably.
I hope that they have time this week for the scene where Tracy gets her prize out and looks at it and remembers the happy days when her dad was still alive.
Yeah.
So there was
45 years ago.
There was drama because they were going to London for this prize. Deirdre needed somebody to look after Tracy, the baby, which I think is rude because she's the reason they won the competition. So the bishops want to look after her, but she refuses because they've never had children. So she gives her to Blanche, which puts Emily's nose out of joint. But then Blanche has to go home, so she asks Ina to look after Tracy, and then Ina falls over a toy and knocks herself unconscious.
I don't remember this at all.
I think we did watch this. There's Tracy's crying, and Elsie can hear the crying, so she tells Ernest and Emily. So Ernest has to break the window to get Tracy out. They all go to hospital, and then Deirdre and Ray come home at midnight, and there's a broken window and no baby. So she's absolutely hysterical, and then there's a whole load of drama.
So they did have some kind of drama on their Jubilee episodes back then. It wasn't all jolly.
It wasn't all just
jolly sandwiches
and bunting,
and sausage rolls and everything. No, I thought that's quite funny that Deirdre and Ray didn't let Emily have Tracy when she was her godmother, wasn't she? And also she went on to do many a babysitting duty in the years to come. So.
Well, maybe she proved herself worthy because she was the only person involved in this who didn't actually endanger Tracy's life. But actually, is this not? Maybe this is the universe. Maybe some kind of time traveller has gone back in time to try to kill baby Tracy, much in the same way that people often fantasise about killing baby Hitler to prevent Charlie Stubbs from being murdered.
Along the same lines, aren't they?
It's absolutely the same thing.
Yeah. Well, no wonder poor Tracy turned out to be such a wronger and after being part and pillar to post all those times on the Jubilee.
The other thing that happened
memories.
was the Weatherfield Gazette made a glamorous granny contest.
This is also English, isn't it?
It
Nobby
really
Me's glamorous granny. No, what was it? Bonniest baby.
Vera
Alfie
enters.
would win that this week.
But she's not a granny. Susie and Gail enter Elsie Tanner, much to her disgust. And also Hilda decides to enter at the last minute. And Elsie makes it all the way to the finals to her absolute fury.
That's funny. That is a fun episode. It's one worth it's tracking down. It's probably there on YouTube or something if anyone wants to go and have a look at it. But I enjoyed it at the time. In my notes from a couple of years ago, I gave it 3 stars.
Wow.
Out of 3, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a special notation technique in my notes. I put a 1 star if it's all right, a 2 star if it's a little bit better than all right, 3 stars if that was a bloody brilliant episode, and if it was just, don't give it any stars at all.
Interesting.
So that was a good one, apparently.
Yeah.
And another good Coronation Street Jubilee episode I quite enjoyed was the Golden Jubilee episode 20 years ago, back for the 50th, because we only watched that fairly recently, didn't we? Which was
2002.
Which was when they were putting on a recreation of a Cavaliers and Roundheads battle on the Red Wreck, and we saw a couple of episodes running up to it as well, I think last time as well. And it was
It's the beginning. It was always in June, our Jubilee celebrations.
Yeah, so it was basically Roy and Fred planning a Civil War reenactment. But Fred wants to change it so that the Royalists win, doesn't he? Because he's there in his dashing cavalier outfit with his frilly wig and all his regalia and everything. And
Roy's there. I say it would be quite a bad thing if we had the other people win. I say it'd be quite bad.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, as this is a celebration of her Madge, you want to get the Royalists to win.
Well, it's bizarre to me to even consider doing a Civil War reenactment to celebrate a Jubilee. But if you're going to, then you do need to have the Royalists win.
I can't remember who else was on which side.
But if you don't, then you're basically being quite Channel 4 level anachronistic.
antagonist.
No, anarchist.
Anarchistic.
Anarchistic.
Yeah, that's a word, isn't it?
Is
Why
it?
not?
I'm so English, I don't know how to pronounce it.
It was Ashley and Fred. Curly was involved, was he? Was he one of the Roundheads, I think?
I don't remember who was who.
The parliamentarians. Roy definitely wasn't he?
I don't know if anybody, if you're outside... Is this a famous thing that I know that Americans assume that everybody knows about their history, but it's Civil War. Obviously, they won, but then we got bored of them, and then we brought back the monarchy.
Yeah, this is when we didn't have a monarchy for a little bit because we just wanted to change.
And what was his name?
Oliver Cromwell.
Oliver Cromwell banned Christmas, and we were like, how on earth will we know when to eat puddings and buy crackers? Get rid of this.
One of the funniest bits of this was Roy getting arrested because he gets a proper Civil War style musket, doesn't he? Which he, for whatever reason, decides to take to Freshco's.
Just to say that Roy was very cross about this, about the royalists being touted as the winner, because I sort of agree with him. There's no point in doing it if you're going to make it up as you go along.
Yeah.
But he's very a stickler for authenticity.
He certainly is.
So he hires a musket.
Yeah, takes it to the shop, and then when he's waiting in the queue, he's just kind of doing his jewels with it and taking it off his shoulder and pointing. It was a bit weird, and I know that Roy isn't necessarily in tune with the social, social acceptabilities and everything, but pointing a gun in a crowded supermarket, maybe not the best option. And this was only a couple of years on from the Freshco siege as well.
They're a bit nervy about it.
Yeah, you'd have maybe thought about that. But it was kind of funny anyway. He gets taken to the police station and gets arrested overnight. But he is released in time to make it to the event. The other fun bit about this story was the women, wasn't it? Because doesn't Karen McDonald get stuck in the stocks or something? She wants to have a role in it. And I think, Fizz and Gina decide to, they drag her, they take her to the thing and say, we got the perfect role for you. And then they reveal that she's a witch and put her in the stocks and stuff.
Fizz is supposed to be a spy. Maxine gets to be a princess.
She's not she is an actual spy. She's not that famous medieval character, the spy. I think that she is spying for one of the two sides, but I can't remember who.
I don't know.
I don't remember. I thought it was fun, and it just ended in utter chaos, didn't it? And Roy, this was filmed out. Well, it was set on the Red Wreck. It wasn't on the street, was it? But I think I've got a feeling towards the end of the episode, Roy does have another go at Fred, and he knocks him over onto the street.
Why are you saying that? Because it's written down what happened.
I'm not reading it. I
know, but I've written this on purpose.
I'm going from a memory.
I could have just said Michael recounts badly the story of the Civil War reenactment and just guesses what happens.
You get what happened then, Gemma?
You forgot to mention one of the worst things that happened was that Sam got hit by a pie and he breaks his arm. I don't know how those two things are related. Perhaps there was some gristle left in the pie. But yeah, the chaos reigns. They all get the fight gets broken up and they all get led away, and then they
turns into a proper
meet
skirmish.
back up at Roy's Rolls on the street, and then the tussle gets taken to the streets. Fred and Roy fight each other, and then eventually Fred gets knocked to the ground, and Roy holds a pike to his throat, and the only thing that's stopping him from writing history is Ken dragging him away.
It's funny how much Roy was getting into it. Fred just proper wound him up, didn't he?
Well, Fred's such a pompous arse.
Yeah.
I can imagine him not really caring, but it doesn't make any sense to do a Civil War an accurate Civil War reenactment and then just have the royalists win and be like, I don't mind, I just want to wear a fancy wig. The only reason that Fred wanted to wear to be a royalist is because he knew eventually they win overall, and also he gets to wear a cool outfit. And Roy is just the epitome of the Roundhead spirit of no, we'll go by the rules.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't like any frivolities.
So that was a kind of a different fun way of doing it, wasn't it? For the Golden Jubilee. I don't think you want a street party every year.
No.
And it was a nice spectacle. And they also gave us a little bit more of the Weatherfield history as well, because wasn't it kind of semi-based on a fictitious battle that supposedly took place in Weatherfield on days gone by. So yes. I approve of that. It was fun.
One thing I want to mention that you didn't say up top was that I sourced this information from Corrie, IMDb and Wikipedia, because somebody's gone through IMDb and at least for the section I was looking at, put some very elaborate synopsis in there for.
Well, that's handy.
Yeah, it is handy.
When's anyone going to quote us and use us as a source? Are we not trustworthy enough?
No, because we say somebody lives in Wales and they don't.
we go straight from the factual to the farcical so smoothly. Nobody ever knows whether to trust what
I wouldn't trust a word I say for certain.
So they might not be doing anything, as far as I know so far, for the Platinum Jubilee.
Apart
but
from
the
Diamond
Jubilee did get a bit of a special event 10 years ago, didn't it?
But I just want to point out the context of the Diamond Jubilee was that we had the Olympics in this country, and also it was William and Kate's wedding earlier in the year. So 2012 was a fairly
we were all feeling very patriotic that year, weren't we?
For us.
That was your favourite year before everything started going badly. I remember
2012 was my favourite year of my life, and every year's been worse since then.
It had Spice Girls at the Olympics. It was amazing.
Imagine.
So,
what happened?
I barely remember this. This isn't one that's gone down in history for me. And I've got a picture. I found a picture of them all there on their street party table and everything, all red, white and blue everywhere. And you got like Stella Price and Carl Munro and I can't remember else, just kind of headlining the event. I was like, oh yeah, that's not going to be one that goes down for the ages in the history books, is it?
As I remember, Nick was in charge of the bistro and Stella was in charge of the Rovers, and they were feuding, and part of the argument involved Sean, who was now working at the bistro with Nick. Does this
he did work there for a little bit. He took the hot pot recipe with him.
So some of the drama involved in this storyline, there was more to do with. It's quite important because this was also the episode where Rita gets kidnapped because she's supposed to be marrying Dennis, and Rick kidnaps her. So that was the main action of the street.
Was this Britain's Got Talent Week 2012? I don't know whether it was or not.
Sean makes 60 hot pots, but then he finds out that the bistro oven is broken and he can't cook them there. He has to cook them at the Rovers, but then Stella wants the recipe back, and it's a big drama. And I don't know what happened, but I assume it all worked out fine in the end.
This was like 3 months before the podcast started, wasn't it?
So I can't be expected
two and a half months before the podcast. If only we'd started a little bit early, we would have a full and accurate account from our point of view of what happened that month. That day. But don't remember at all, really.
Also, Sunita's fundraising for this street party, and she realises that Carl Munro has stolen some of the money to go gambling, but he does win £7,000 and he gives it back to her, which is quite nice.
Nice.
So they have a street party and they have a fancy dress section.
Yes, we did bemoan the quantity of fancy dress that Coronation Street was throwing into its episodes a couple of years ago, weren't we? But we haven't had quite so much recently.
For Americans, this is a costume party. I don't know why we call it fancy dress. It just sounds normal to me, but it actually does sound weird when you say it like, oh, it's fancy dress.
Like Elliot was dressed very fancy for the Golden Jubilee.
If you said to somebody who had only no cultural knowledge of the English language, just like a straightforward, I'm learned it out of a book, you said you must come in fancy dress, you would probably just turn up with
put your monocle
some
and
kind
top
of ruffles.
Hat on.
Yeah.
No, they had a few. I mean, I don't know whether we want to read out all of these, but highlights for me, and I don't remember any of this, so I'm just reading what sounds interesting to me. We had Sean dressed as Freddie Mercury. Can anyone picture that? We had Beth as Britney Spears. Dev as Adamant, I think I kind of remember, or I might be confusing it with who was it that was dressed as Adamant for the 80s? It was Kirk dressed as Adamant for his 80s wedding a few years later, didn't he? I think we had Faye as Sporty Spice. I don't know how she knows who she is. She's a little bit young for that. Maria, Marcus, and Liam as the Oddmans. Kylie
Osmonds, not the Oddmans.
The Oddmen. Kylie as Amy Winehouse. So, yeah, sounds like they had an all right time, really, didn't they?
Yeah, I don't know what the theme was. Just seemed to be musical people, because there's loads of people here that aren't English. Like Elvis Presley, Jason was Elvis Presley, Anna was Dolly Parton for some reason, Tracy was Cher. So they do have a competition, and Dev as Adam Ant wins third place. Sean,
it's Freddie Mercury.
He comes second, and then Liam, who was one of the Osmonds, wins first place. Like, what do you mean?
Weird.
Like, individually the Osmonds entered and you're like, yes, we must judge them as unique individuals.
I think we'd have to rewatch the episode to find this out, to be honest. But, reading from that synopsis, it's not going to be in, my top 100 list of episodes that must watch soon in any time.
Absolutely not.
Anytime soon. But
now this was also interesting to me because this is the origin of another story, which turned out to be quite scandalous. They have a raffle. Faye wins first prize, which is a spa trip. She gives it to Owen and Anna, but Maria wins a meal for 2 at the bistro. Then she gives that to Sean and Marcus because she feels sorry for herself and doesn't have anybody to go with. But Marcus takes pity on her and decides to take her with him to dinner, and this is when the sparks begin to fly between Marcus and Maria, because Marcus was obviously in a relationship with Sean. He thought he was a homosexual man, and then he finds himself falling in love with Maria.
And Sean dressed up as Freddie Mercury and is like, God, he's so butch. I'm just not into him.
Maria though, that was the beginning of that relationship.
Oh, okay. Well, that was something at least.
So those are all the Jubilee events on Coronation Street.
I think
not very many of them, but
not very. Or the Queen's not had very many. Well, she's had 70. There was
Jubilees. A ruby one in. No, she hasn't. That's just an anniversary.
Do they not count as Jubilees?
No, it's every 10 years, isn't it? Once you get past 25.
Oh, okay, fine.
I don't know. What are you asking me for? They had the ruby one, which was 1992, which I don't think they did anything for, but for the last 2 decades, 2002 was a golden, 2012 was a diamond, and now we're in 2022 with the platinum. I don't know if Coronation Street will do anything more than... They might still have
something later on this week, I don't know.
Someone going to crash their car into some bunting?
They did mention the...
Maybe it's going to be like, in Jurassic Park when the T-Rex stands and roars in the visitor centre and then the banner flutters down.
Yeah. Who's going to be the T-Rex? Abby
screaming on the top of a car as Union Jack Bunting just falls around her.
I think it's going to be Toya when she gets the baby taken away from her. If that's going to happen. She's got that primal... And they did mention the Jubilee a bit earlier this year, didn't they? Back when it was actually the Queen's, when it was the proper anniversary. Because I don't get.
There's 2, but
there's the crowning day and then your Jubilee day and everything. And Rita and Audrey did give her Majesty a shout out, didn't they? Say, isn't she lovely? Yes, let's have a drink together and say how lovely the Queen is, and then let's fall out next scene for some drama that's still unresolved, like 3 or 4 months later. But never mind that. Let's move on to this next bit then, Gemma. So you wanted to pose the question: who is the royal family of Coronation Street? What did you mean by that, please?
Well, I want to know if there were to be. Say that Weatherfield became its own fiefdom, or whatever that means. I don't know what that means. It sounds fancy.
Let's just say
if it became its own kind of
kingdom.
Little, maybe like
the Kingdom of Weatherfield.
Monaco.
Yeah.
Is a city, but it's also and the Vatican.
Yeah.
It's just its own country.
Yeah.
Who would be crowned the royal family? Who's the prominent family of Coronation Street? So what makes a good royal family? Like historically speaking, it's whoever was the most vicious and what's the word?
There was a bloodthirsty.
Ambitious and had the most power. Who's the most powerful family? Who's the family that sets the best example for their loyal subjects? Who holds the community together?
I can totally picture right now the anti-monarchist listeners recoiling in horror and saying, "Oh well, the royal family, they're people who scrounge the most money."
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're going to be like that about it, you could, say that if you want to.
Well, I'm saying maybe we have to get somebody who has all of it.
If you're writing a fairy story about the royal prince and princess or whatever, what kind of nice things would you say about them? I mean, I've tried to be a bit of a, give different examples. So I said, who's got the most scandals?
Oh yeah.
Who's the most boring? And non-committal, because that's also something I value very much about Her Majesty. I don't want to know what she thinks about anything.
No.
Public service, who goes out and does things for people. Who is fashionable and trend-setting, because that's something that people don't appreciate about the royal family. But back in the Victorian era, old Prince Manface Albert was quite the trendsetter, wasn't he? He's the reason that we have
trendy Christmas trees. Yeah.
And Christmas cards, for example. He brought in a lot of traditions that are very traditional. today. So
we
what
need,
kind
we
of
need to
things?
pick a family. I mean, if we just forget about all of what you just said for a minute and bring it back a little bit.
Oh, hang on. One more thing. What? There needs to be an obvious patriarch or matriarch, like head of the family, who would be the queen or king or queen. It's all very well having all these hangers on and duchess of whatever and viscount la-di-da, but you want a proper monarch at the top of it all to put on your coins.
Is there any argument that, you know, against the Barlows?
I mean, the Barlows is obviously
as Corrie's
obvious.
premier family with Ken at the head.
I mean, if you're gonna,
he must be celebrating his platinum anniversary on Coronation Street. Well, is he going to make it? He's only got to go another 8 years, and then he'll have been on the show for 70 years, which is quite an achievement. He strikes me as being very he's pompous enough to be a king. He
certainly has a sort of an element of Prince Charles about him, in that he's kind of oblivious to criticism and quite pretentious without realising that he thinks he's a bit more down to earth than he is.
Tell you what, another thing about royal families, affairs.
Oh.
You do get these monarchs that are the ladies' men, don't you? You know, kings taking the tour around their kingdom, stopping off for the latest tavern, every tavern to find the local wench.
Nell Gwyn.
Yeah, so I think that Ken has got quite a good
I think there's
good claim to the throne.
But can I just point out? I mean, I know our queen now is single, but she never had, you know, any drama with Phil. There were rumours, sure. There were allegations, yes. They've all been covered up. But as far as we know, they had many, many years of wedded bliss. But you can't say the same for Ken.
No, not quite.
I mean, was Deirdre, it's my question, was Deirdre, no, Valerie was our Princess Diana, that makes Deirdre Camilla.
Yeah.
Is Deirdre the Cam of Weatherfield?
What would that be? The one that lots of people hate, but other people think no, she was probably the one that was for him. The
one that just gets on with what she's supposed to be doing and gets criticised and dragged through the mud for stuff that probably she shouldn't have done.
Ken was quite
a while ago now. And I think everyone should get over it. But that's just my controversial opinion. Yeah, I quite like Camilla. I think she's great.
Ken's kids have, not been strangers to scandal either, have they?
That's
Peter's
true.
Peter's had his affairs.
Is Peter Prince Charles?
Maybe. If you think Prince Charles is a raging alky.
I think that they all are a little bit. I think if you're an aristocrat, you just drink all the time because you've got access to great wine and spirits.
Yeah. Also, the Barlows do live at number 1, and I think if Buckingham Palace did have a house number, it'd probably be number 1.
Yeah, one Buck House. Yeah.
What else is there?
So hang on. So if Ken is the Queen, no, Deirdre is Prince Philip.
Ken is just the king.
No.
He's the one on the coins.
No, but you're likening it to the royal family now. So Ken would be the Queen.
If you want.
He's still in charge.
Okay.
And Deirdre's Prince Philip because she's dead.
Would Blanche be the Queen Mother?
Yeah, the Queen Mum.
Yeah.
Drunkenly talking crap all day long, which I think is what the Queen Mother did, and that's why we all loved her very much.
Yeah. She did it to us.
Then we've got Prince Charles is Peter bringing disrepute on the family.
Yeah.
Which is totally true.
Well,
having lots of relationships and who's that make?
Tracy then?
So Tracy's Camilla.
Is she the murderous Prince Anne?
No, hang on, yeah. She's Prince Anne, who I think's a badass, and she should be queen because she's actually the firstborn, and then it should be Zara next. Anyway,
we've got Daniel as well. Don't forget, is Daniel Randy Andy?
Yeah, Daniel's Prince Andrew because he keeps doing things that are very illegal, and then everyone just covers it up.
Yeah, he did have a thing for young Bethany as well, didn't he? When she was over the age of consent and everything. But,
well, I mean,
yeah.
Okay. So then, Charles. Hang on. So Peter's Charles. So that makes Carla is Camilla.
Oh yeah.
And that makes Diana the one that died of cancer.
Diana is clearly Susan Barlow. Died in a car crash.
But she's the twin sister of Peter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about the relationship. We've got a kid that's died in a car crash. That's got to be Susan.
Diana, yeah.
Susan is Diana. We've also got the other thing that's a point for the Barlows is that the royals do like their Scottish links, don't they? And we do, and Ken did ship both Peter and Susan off to Scotland when they were little, off to Balmoral.
That's pretty much what the Queen did. Queen and Prince Philip did with Charles. They sent him off to that horrible boarding school, didn't they?
Yeah, and I don't think we can argue for anyone else here. Ken and Deirdre twice married in the same week as Prince Charles.
That's true. That is true.
Back in when was it? 1981 was it that they got married for the first time? And then I can't remember when the second one was in the early 2000s, but that was Ken and Deirdre remarried the same week, maybe even the same day as Charles and Camilla.
But you've ruined my whole thing now because we've just come to a conclusion already and we're only 35 minutes in.
Well, we can try and have a look and see if anyone else comes close.
Well, I put in like the Metcalfes because you got Sally who was the mayor, which is sort of like being the Queen.
Yeah, she was the closest that we had to the Queen of Weatherfield. Although I think that Alf did a better job of being that the puffed up, statesmanly kind of chap that would make a good king.
Alf Roberts.
Alf Roberts. Yeah.
So that's Audrey. So Audrey would be the Queen. And that makes Gail the princess.
Well, she has had many suitors, hasn't she?
Because that would then lead into the Platts becoming the next royal. If you're going down the family tree, you've got Audrey and
Stephen.
No.
Audrey and Gail.
Audrey and the man you just said.
Alf.
Yes.
Yes, I didn't know.
Audrey and Alf are the king and queen.
Yes.
And then you've got Gail as the princess coming down next. So she's like a queen because she was the only daughter. Forget Stephen. He's in Canada.
He's in Canada, don't
you? He's never coming back. So you've got Gail. So what were you saying about Gail and her husband?
Just many suitors.
She's a bit like Henry VIII.
Yes, yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
As is Steve MacDonald, so there could be an argument for the MacDonald clan being the royal family.
We don't just have to be modern royals. It could be any royal. We could basically.
If you want to fill time on this podcast, I don't see why not.
For example, who's burned cakes a lot?
So many of them.
Like King Alfred.
Yeah, that could be.
That could be Aggie, couldn't it? The Baileys.
On the street, yeah.
Because the Baileys could do a good job of being the royal family because they're like a stable couple. They're the only stable couple on the street. You need good leadership. You need a steady hand at the wheel.
The wheel of monarchy.
And you can't, say what you like about Elizabeth and Phil. They stayed together their whole lives. Yeah. So that's pretty good.
I've seen The Crown.
That's like the Baileys. So the Baileys could be the royal family, which makes Michael the heir apparent.
Prince Michael.
Michael. And
not Princess Michael of Kent.
No, not her. I think she's a bit racist.
Oh, I don't think Michael's racist.
He might be.
He gets profiled.
Who is the baby? What's the baby's name?
Baby Glory.
Glory. Now that's
Land of Hope and Glory.
That's a brilliant name for a queen. Queen Glory of Weatherfield.
I think that would have to be one that was changed.
But then you see, we'd have to bury the whole story about
Grace.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
You're going to have to fill in all the names for me tonight, Michael.
You can't remember. You got your wine. It's just...
I am just a glass in for my wine.
Anything else? Yeah, now, when you were saying about Gail and her suitors, I was kind of imagining her being a bit more like a Princess Jasmine sort. You know, when she gets all the princes in.
I'm not a prize to be won.
Yeah, exactly.
Prince Ali, yes it is he.
It's Richard Hillman.
Yeah. Okay, maybe I don't remember Aladdin going like that, but why not? So who's Raja then?
Is that David the dog? Or just David the human? Yeah. I don't know.
If you're going for people who have an air of stateliness about them, I think you can't go wrong with Annie Walker. Yeah. She's so regal. She dressed up as Queen Elizabeth.
Well, when she was dressed up as Queen Elizabeth, I think people made the comment at the time and probably since that she didn't dress up as Queen Elizabeth. She was Queen Elizabeth, and she said you can't rehearse Majesty or some sort of quote like that.
Majestic is a very good word to describe Annie Walker. Now I'm not sure the same can be said about Jack. Less said about his London Lovelies magazine, the better. But he certainly could be like a nice jovial king. Maybe more like a Prince Philip figure who is not as important as the Queen, but still is married to her. So maybe he just married into the royal family.
I expect, and I know the Queen is officially impartial when it comes to politics. Politics. But I imagine that Annie Walker's political views aligned closer to the Queen's than Ken Barlow's himself did, who is a bit of a raging lefty, isn't he?
I don't imagine the Queen is clamouring and wishes that she could only be free of her the chains of the monarchy, so she could go and stand with a ban the bomb sign outside her local civic centre.
No, exactly. That is definitely a point against the Barlows, I have to say. But some might say that the monarchy is in need of a bit of a change.
Can I just point out though that Prince Charles has had some fairly radical views in his day, like organic farming and save the environment, which was considered to be quite kooky back in the day.
Oh, how can we make Toyah be Prince Charles somehow? If Toyah is Prince Charles, that means that Janice and Les are the king and queen. I don't know whether that's going to work.
I also think that Imran feels like a bit of a Princess Diana at the moment.
Oh yeah, we'll have to see how this week goes as well, won't we?
Yeah.
We've seen the trailer.
Yeah. What about the Tanners? They were the original first family at Coronation Street because they were the first ones in the show.
I don't think it counts if your son is the jester. Which is the role that I would always put Dennis Tanner in.
That's true, yeah. You can't really have a joke, a prince that likes to play jokes and also has a side in a... Actually, talking about the entertainment industry, isn't Prince Edward, like, that was his thing? That's why they did It's a Royal Knockout.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
He had his own television company and stuff.
Yeah.
So, there you go, Michael.
So
That's
Dennis
1
Tanner
point
is
for
Prince
them.
Edward, is he? Who's Princess Fergie?
Any one of his floozies.
Yeah.
I don't know. Good old Fergs. You know that she was married to Andrew, not Edward, though.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Edward is with Sophie.
All the same to me.
Duke and Duchess of Wessex. Technically, our Duke and Duchess, Michael, because we live in the old Kingdom of Wessex.
If we weren't trying to align these royals specifically and quite so rigidly to the current royal family, are there any others in the past or present who we think would do a good job of representing Coronation Street and being figureheads for the nation? I just think that pretty much every Coronation Street family has got some kind of scandal in. And
I know, but the thing is,
but maybe that's good.
A Republican would say there have been very many royal scandals that you just don't even know about because they've been hushed up. But, one thing about the royal family is they do breed like rabbits. And that's a good thing for a royal family.
Yes,
and I remember criticising the Connors for being like an STD.
Oh, yes.
Spreading throughout the street, left, right and centre. Like bamboo just coming out from everywhere. What about the Dobbs Brown Stape Winter family clan, who now have got 4 babies?
God, just imagine them as your monarchy.
Imagine being...
I'd turn Republican pretty fast if
Imagine if you were a princess or a prince and you were one of 4 and it just so happens that your brother or sister was the first one out by like 5 minutes and that made them king or queen while you were just relegated to like, fourth
maybe you
in
could
line.
have some kind of royal sibling aside. What's the word? Frere-aside.
I don't know.
I'm sure there's a special word for murdering your brothers and sisters.
Justice.
Maybe they could be like the royal princes in the Tower. Lock them up.
Sad. Yeah.
Ogdens,
they're far too common to
definitely.
Be. And same with
they might get in if they had some kind of Prince and the Pauper shtick.
Oh yeah, swap over.
Yeah. Alf is the actual king, and he's like, "All right, Stan, do you wanna swap places with me for the day? See if anyone notices." Yeah.
Now, same with the Duckworths, even though technically Vera was of royal blood.
That's a good point against them, actually. Yeah, Vera did believe that her a granddad or a great granddad or somebody was King Edward.
Granddad. Her dad told her.
Yeah.
That his dad was the illegitimate son.
Something along those lines, yeah. So I think that they would consider themselves the ones with the bluest blood on Coronation Street, but I'm just everyone we mentioned. I'm just kind of going,
No.
but it's not the Barlows,
no.
is it?
So, who do you think, if I was to say to you, who are the top 3 families of Coronation Street? I think we could both say the Barlows and the Platts, but then who's the third?
That's good question.
Because there's arguments to be made for example, the Connors or the McDonalds. I think the McDonalds probably.
Possibly the McDonalds, but they've just been very, very diluted.
They really have.
Haven't they? I mean, the McDonalds that came in as Jim, Liz, Andy and Steve, most
Only
of them
Steve's
long
left,
gone.
Steve and Amy.
Yeah.
But then, it's also funny to me too that we talk about the Platt family being so prominent, and obviously Gail is maybe arguably the matriarch. I don't know if you would count Audrey, but the Grimshaw family, famously rivals, like the War of the Roses. Yeah, but Eileen and in the Grimshaw families, they're not really very prominent. You couldn't even argue they're top 5.
No.
Which is sad, really. I don't know who Eileen thinks she is having a go at Gail.
Yeah, I think it's a real difficult one to do, like, who is Corrie's, third family, because there isn't anyone that's kind of obviously left over.
No, there isn't.
There's
really
just
isn't.
like a few left. Like, you got a couple of Battersbys left, but there are only ever 4 of them anyway. Webster's, I think they could have had a claim for it at one point, but now Sophie and Rosie have bogged off around the world.
It's
I don't
weird.
think there's much future for that family.
Because the Platts aren't even an original family.
No.
The Barlows are the only ones on this list, really, who've been in it from the start. Because, like, the Walkers are gone, the Tanners are gone, the Ogdens are gone.
Rita does carry the Tanner name still, remember?
She married him, she's not a real Tanner.
Yeah, no, there aren't.
It's really interesting.
Any families from
it's
the
funny
60s
how there hasn't really been a continuing family dynasty apart from the Barlows, which I guess goes to show you that they really truly are the royal family of Coronation Street.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that with Audrey, we've got one of the Robertses, and Alf was in it from fairly near the beginning, wasn't he?
True.
And we obviously had Miss Nugent in it right from the beginning as well, and so she's only just gone.
But can I just say that if the bishops were our king and queen, they'd just kick off a massive civil war because they didn't have any heirs. And that's always a sticky subject when it comes to royal families. If you don't produce an heir, a clear-cut one, then you're just going to be causing ructions.
Yeah.
And don't come to me with none of these girl children either. They don't count.
And I think that the idea of a family on Coronation Street, and indeed, the world in general, is changing so much. And I wonder whether whether there will ever be a third great family of Coronation Street now, or whether we've got to pick from the ones we've already had because everything's just becoming so sparse, and people are, people aren't staying together, and people.
This is the trouble with
they're not
Coronation
getting married
Street.
at all. Or
I remember. So, didn't they have the Soap Awards where they had to nominate a family?
Yeah.
They did the Alahans.
Yeah, this year's Soap Awards, the Alahans are nominated.
Some of the shortlist people were like random amalgamations of families, because the Coronation Street's been going so long
The McDonald's Barlows.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they're just pushing all these families together, which is
Browns.
perfectly natural, but also a bit too complicated. If I was a producer, one of the things I might think about doing is bringing in a family that has a link to the street from years back. Like, I would love to bring back a new generation of walkers, because they did have children.
That would be. I haven't really thought of that before, actually, but that could be quite smart. I mean, they tried to do it a little bit with the Grimshaws, didn't they, by saying that they are tangentially related to the Tanners.
But that was only that happened a long time into them already being in the show.
Yeah.
They didn't come in going, whatever.
They just have an awful lot to live up to. Can you imagine, like, the grandchildren of the Ogdens, which I can't remember, there probably are ones I can't remember, came into the show now, and they were like, yeah, we're the new generation of Ogdens. Remember that? Rose-tinted specs on everybody. But what if nobody really liked them? That'd...
Well, it would just be a failed experiment.
Yeah.
So it's worth trying it out, I think.
No, you could be right, actually. I like that idea as well. But you
haven't even had any wine, so it must be a good idea.
Must be.
I mean, would you, if you were to bring back any family, though,
if I was to revive any family name, I would dearly love to be the Ogdens, but then I would probably be very disappointed.
Well,
I think the Duckworths is a famous family name.
Yeah.
But all we've got left there is Tommy and Terry, haven't we? And I'm not particularly interested in them being in it again.
But they definitely have more name recognition than the Walkers do.
Yeah, weirdly. But then maybe you don't want one that's got recognition. I mean, because then with recognition there is the high expectation. So why not bring in the Flemings maybe?
Oh no, please God.
Or I can't remember. I can't think of anything worse than that, to be honest. Or even just is there anything left of the Sharples clan or the Caldwells or even like the Birtles or the Hardmans or anything?
Yeah, maybe we could have like a female Ghostbusters revival of the three cranes in the snug.
Maybe that's a discussion.
Maybe it could be like
day.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, where they brought the kids in.
Yes,
and it's like they're basically like little carbon copies, except in the modern day, and you can have
like Muppet Babies.
The Muppet Baby, Ina, Minnie, and Martha. I would really love that. I would really love them to like rekindle that spirit of three women, but make them younger and see what can be done with them.
Can't have three women around a table together at the moment, Gemma. COVID rules. Still haven't got out of that yet.
What, just specifically women? Because we touch each other's lipstick.
Yeah. I think we've gone off topic. I think that this conversation has run dry. But it was an interesting one while it lasted. I think it was always going to be hard to top the Barlows as Coronation Street's pick for the royal family of Weatherfield. But we had a couple of other options there. Anything more that you think is adding this?
No, I just had a thought and I can't remember what it was.
Excellent. Well, do be sure to tell us later, Gemma. maybe on this weekend's podcast when we will be.
I think I just thought that the Duckworths, it makes sense because Chris Fountain was fired, it was a long time ago, and they've since brought back more recent characters whose actors have disgraced themselves. I really do think that time is it's now the time to bring back Tommy Duckworth.
I'd rather see Terry. But I don't know.
But you see, the thing is, like, if you brought back a Walkers or Ogdens or something, they could be a completely invented character that you just had never heard of. Whereas the Duckworths, it would, if you brought back a character, it would make sense if it was Terry or Tommy.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it.
Anyway. Okay, well, thank you everybody for listening. We are going to be back this weekend with, I don't know if you're, Finn's Got Talent Week. About. I think it's seeming like it's quite a big week this week. I don't know whether you'd noticed.
I've decided.
Doesn't mean we're going to like it. We might hate it. We might love it. We just have to wait a little bit longer to find out our thoughts. And I haven't made my decision yet because I think it was a slow build-up and it is only Monday night as we record this after all. I've
decided that I'm going to limit my conversation and discussion next in the podcast this week to only Jubilee-related activities.
I don't think we'll manage that.
So far, I really like the picture of the Union Jack that's up in the bistro's window. Good job, everybody.
If you do that, then you won't have to admit the horrible truth of what might also happen this week. But anyway, that's enough of that, everybody. Thank you for listening. We've got our theories. We will see if we're right, and we'll be back on Saturday morning bright and early to see whether we were right or not. So, ta-ra for now. Goodbye from me. Goodbye from Gemma.
Goodbye.
Abby's just popped up, so purr from her. And thank you for listening, everybody. Goodbye.